Shalom, shalom, family. First and foremost, I just want to give esteem to Yahuwah, who is the creator of all things. We are nothing without him. Also, I want to say shalom to everyone. I know that it's been a minute since I've uploaded a video. Just been busy with life, one thing after another. But I just want to say that Yahuwah is still good. Without him, we are nothing. I have the lighting here in my front room is not that good, so I have a light sitting here, and it's reflecting off of my glasses, so preferably it's not bothering anyone. I just need this space to be a little bit brighter, otherwise the video will be dark. So with that being said, moving right along. Well, I am one who likes books. Some of you all who know me know that I just love books. I like to read. I like to do research. I like to study. So sometimes when different libraries, well, the library here in the city that I live in, is having a book sale. I like to go to those book sales just to see what kind of books I can come across that I can add to my collection, to add to my library, so that I can learn more, so I can do research and just find out exactly what's going on around me and what went on in the past. I love doing research. I love to do history, history in regards to my people, history in regards to Christianity, history in regards to events, world events that has taken place in the past. So I go to these book sales just so that I can find books and add them to my collection. So with that being said, last week the local library here had a book sale, and I went to it, and I was just perusing the different sections, the different categories, and I saw some books that I saw that would be beneficial to me, to my studies, and so I got those, and just going from one section to another, just looking. Well, I decided to go back to a particular section and look through their books again, and when I did, I came across a particular book that I overlooked the first time, and I just couldn't believe that I overlooked it. But I was just glad that I went back to that particular section because I found a book that I had been wanting for so long. It may be nothing to you, but it's gold to me. I had been watching this particular book for quite some time, 2 to 3 years, maybe, if not longer than that. I went on Amazon.com. It was like the price range was from $14 to $130 some, if not more than that. Well, I know the $14 one was maybe the imitation, and I've looked in the imitation in those particular ones before, and they didn't have what I was looking for, or what should have been contained in that particular book. So I knew that I was going to have to pay some money for it. I knew that I wasn't going to pay $130 some for it, but I knew that I was going to have to meet the price range midway in order to get what I was looking for. Well, when I came across this particular book, I quickly picked it up, thumbed through it, looked through it, and it was like, yes, it contains exactly what I want and what it should contain. So I immediately took it, and I was just so glad to be able to come across this book, because I have been looking for it for such a long time. And you're probably wondering, what book am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about the King James Version 1611 Bible. And I understand that I'm using the word Bible. I'm using a term that everybody's familiar with. Those of you who are in this walk, you know what I mean. Those who are not in this walk, I'm using the word Bible. So with that being said, I came across the 1611 King James Version Bible. You would never guess how much I paid for it. You would never guess. I dare you, take a guess. $2. I paid $2 for this Bible. $2. Amazon.com ain't got nothing on that. $2. So my video is pertaining to this here. Now you're wondering, why did I have to have this, or why did I feel the need to eventually add it to my collection? Well, there is a difference. There's quite a few differences. I'm only going to touch base on some of the differences, a few of the differences, but there's a difference between this version or this text or this with this version versus this one, King James Version. There is a difference. There's a difference between 1611 King James Version and the King James Version Bible that you're using today. If you want to know what the difference is, stay tuned. Now, some of you all may already know the difference. Some of you all may already be familiar with it, but those of you who don't know, stay tuned, and I pray that it is beneficial to you to gain this knowledge. So with that being said, don't go anywhere. Okay, family, here I have my 1611 King James Version text, or as what is commonly called the Bible. Now, like I said, I just want to share a few differences that you see in this text versus the text that we have today, the King James Version text that we have of today. So, like I said, it's only going to take a few minutes. So with that being said, let's get started. Now, as I open it up, let's go into the contents. And I already have my pages marked, so I won't have to be fumbling here of the places that I want to go to. Now, here in the 1611 King James Version Bible, I have it turned to the content page. And let me see if I can zoom in a little bit so you can see what I'm seeing. Now, first of all, it says the names and order of all the books of the Old and New Testament with the number of their chapters. Now, I want you to take note of how some of the words are spelled. You notice that we don't spell some of the words that we see here. We don't spell them like this today, do we? Because you're dealing with the Old English books, B-O-O-K-E-S, old, O-L-D-E. Now, there's something else I want to go into a little later in my video in regards to how words were spelled back then versus today. But anyway, let's progress on. So here we have the contents of this particular King James Version text. We see Genesis. See how Genesis is spelled? The same way we spell today. It says Genesis has chapters 50. Genesis hath chapters, and we see the number 50. Basically, it's just saying Genesis has 50 chapters. And then we see Exodus, Leviticus. Notice Leviticus. Do you see how Leviticus is spelled? L-E-U-I-T-I-C-U-S. What's going on here? Because today, the way we spell Leviticus today, we spell it L-E-V-I-T-I-C-U-S. But we see here in the 1611 King James Version text, L-E-U-I-T-I-C-U-S. So that should raise a red flag. Because see, back when this text was written in the 1600s, there was no V. Okay? That's the one note that I want you to take notice of. There was no letter V. It was L-E-U. There was only the letter U, not the letter V. Leuiticus, Leviticus. Numbers, Deuteronomy. What's up with Deuteronomy? Deuteronomie. Today we spell Deuteronomy with the letter Y, ending in the letter Y. But in the 1600s and earlier on, prior to that year, we have Deuteronomie. Right? So let's continue on. We have Yahushua. Notice here, there is no letter J. No letter J. It is spelled I-O-S-H-U-A. I-U-D-G-E-S. Joshua and Judges. No letter J in the 1611 King James Version text. Please take note of that. So as we continue to move on, we see how, let's look at the book of Esther. Not Esther, but Job. Again, no letter J. See how the book of Psalms is spelled. We have Proverbs. Again, no letter V. We have the letter U. Okay? So as we continue on, we see the rest of the books. Okay? But then we have here in the 1611 King James Version text, the books called the Apocrypha. Excuse me. Now you notice these books here. We have Esdras, first Esdras, second Esdras, Tobit, Judith, the rest of Esther, Baruch with the epistle of Jeremiah, chapter 6. Baruch with the epistle of Jeremiah 6, the song of the three children, the story of Susanna, Baal and the dragon, the prayer of Manasseh, Maccabees, second Maccabees, first and second Maccabees. Now there's actually 4 Maccabees, but in this version and in most versions, even of today, when you are able to find a few Bibles that contain the Apocrypha, you only find the first and second Maccabees. I do want to bring out a little bit about the Apocrypha, and I will do that in a few minutes. But let's go on to the book of the New Testament. You see how they spell the word testament? We don't spell it like that today, do we? We have all of the books of the New Testament, and pretty much we have these books in our version of the King James Version today. So here, just by looking at the content, you do see some differences in the 1611 King James Version Bible versus the Bible that we have of today. So now that we're talking about the Apocrypha, what exactly is the Apocrypha? Well, as I've stated early on, the Apocrypha are books that are not in our version of the Bible today. Okay? For whatever reason, they decided to remove the Apocrypha from today's version of the Bible. One main reason that I've heard and have come across so many times is the fact that they did not deem the books called the Apocrypha inspired. They were not inspired enough to be left in the versions of the Bibles that we have today. They were removed. They were removed. Why were they removed? I mean, they were in the 1611 King James Version Bible. So why, when they decided to canonize the Bible, or to go in and take out that which was important, or that which they thought was inspired, or that was not inspired, and leave those books in that they thought was inspired, why did they feel the need to remove books? Because when you read these books, they have so much wisdom. Like, for an example, you may have heard me talk about the book of Ecclesiasticus, a very important book. Wisdom. You talking about wisdom, it falls right in the category with the book of Proverbs, Song of Solomon. You know, so much wisdom that you can apply to your life today that will help you to live a set apart and a Kodash life before Yahuwah. The first book of Maccabees and the second book of Maccabees, all of them. I mean, you talking about encouragement on how to live Quadash and how to refrain from the works of the enemy. Because even today, like those of us who are in this walk, who has to fight against the enemy, who has to, because there's so much deception in this world. Even when it comes to eating swine, we are commanded not to eat swine. But when you look at most of your foods today, you find nothing but swine. It may not have the word swine in the ingredients, but when you look up what those ingredients are, you find that they come from swine flesh, some form of swine, some form of it could be either gelatin. I mean, it's amazing. The foods that we eat, we have to be very careful, because so much of the foods that we eat contains some form of swine. And it's hard when you're trying to eat according to the dietary law that we read about in the Torah. You know, it's hard. And you have to watch what you eat. You have to pay close attention to what you're eating, because if you're not careful, the enemy will set you up. He will set you up. Even some of the things that we wear, the makeup. I mean, you'll be surprised what swine flesh is in, or what we find, the foods that we eat, the clothes that we wear, the things that we use, how much swine has been used in those things, and it's been covered up with different words. They call different things, and if you're not careful, and if you're not one who really investigate the matter, you will find that you are transgressing the dietary law. Not only are we not commanded to eat the swine, we're not commanded to eat. We have been commanded to not to eat the swine. We also have been commanded to not touch it. We cannot touch the swine. That's the only flesh in the scriptures that I know of that we have been commanded not to touch. That goes to show you how serious Yahuwah is about us eating swine. We can't eat it at all. But anyway, I didn't mean to go off on that tangent, but bringing it back in, let's talk about the word apocrypha, okay? And again, like I said, these books were taken out of the Bible because they did not deem them inspired enough according to their belief, according to what they deem as being inspired. Because as you know, the Bible has been canonized. The Bible has been canonized. But anyway, apocrypha, give me a second. Let's see what the word apocrypha means. Here I have my telephone, and let me see if I can, hold on. Okay, okay, there we go. Okay, and I have the Merriam Dictionary app portal open, and we have the apocrypha. And let me press this button so you can hear how it sounds, how the word is pronounced, in case you don't know how it's pronounced.
Apocrypha.
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 Apocrypha. So now we have here the definition for the word apocrypha. Definition number 1: writings are statements of dubious authenticity. Okay. Number 2, part A: books included in the Septuagint and Vulgate, but excluded from the Jewish and Protestant canons of the Old Testament. And it says, see Bible table. You can do that on a later note. So these books were included in the Septuagint and the Vulgate, but were excluded from the Jewish and the Protestant canons of the Old Testament. So again, that proves my point here that we have the Apocrypha here in the 1611 King James Version Bible, but when you get to the other Bible, the Bibles that we have of today, you do not find the Apocrypha nowhere. Now, there are very few texts now that you are able to find the Apocrypha, but they're very, very slim to none. Okay? let's go back to the definition here. Definition to be early Christian writings not included in the New Testament. Okay, the origin, medieval Latin, from late Latin, neuter, plural of apocryphus, secret, not canonical. All right, obscure, to hide away, to hide. First used in 14th century. So now we have here saying that the word apocrypha basically means to hide away, obscure. So you can look at this definition in many different ways. But the definition that I get, the understanding that I get from this definition is that these books have been hidden from us. They have been obscured. They have been hidden so that we cannot know our true history as a people. You really want to know your history? You really want to know what us as a people went through, trying to walk upright, trying to guard the Sabbath, trying to eat according to Yah's commandment, trying to walk in obedience to his commandments? Go to 1st Maccabees, 2nd Maccabees. Read the book of Maccabees, and it would amaze you what our people went through, the suffering, the lives that they lost, just so that they can walk upright before Yahuwah and keep his commandments. Okay? Now, let's go to the Apocrypha, just to show you that it is indeed in this book. I know we saw it in the content, but let's go here for a minute. I want to show you the Apocrypha. And yes, I do have it marked. Here we have it. The Apocrypha. Apocrypha. Esdras, first Esdras. So yes, it is the Apocrypha. These books that are no longer found in our Bibles of today, the King James Version Bibles, or any other version for that matter, they were indeed in the 1611 King James Version Bible. So yes, at one point in time, people were reading the Apocrypha. At one point in time, they were basing their lives according to the Apocrypha, as well as the Old Testament, the Tanakh, and the Brit Kadasha, the New Testament. So yes, the Apocrypha was in our King James Version Bible at one point in time, 1611 to be exact. So this is proof to show to you that the Apocrypha, Esdras, 1st and 2nd Esdras, Maccabees, Judith, Tobit, all those books were in our Bibles. And not only were these books in our Bible, there were a whole lot more that were in our Bibles at one point in time. But when they decided to canonize the Bible, they took all those books away, all right, and decided to only keep certain books. When you read certain books, you find phrases such as in the book of Jasher, so-and-so, blase, in the book of Jasher. Okay, well, if we have books here today that's referring to the book of Jasher, then where's the book of Jasher at? When you go to the content, you don't see the book of Jasher nowhere. The book of Jasher is nowhere in here. But yet still, there are scriptures, there are verses in this Bible that refers to the book of Jasher. Where is it? And that's just one of many examples. There is no book of Jasher here. No Annals of the Kings. None of that. But yet still, we often read in our Bibles of today, as well as Bibles back in the day, of other books. But those books are not here. All right. Now, one other thing that I want to bring to your attention. Now, note, I told you that there was no letter U in this Bible. Okay, the 1611, no letter U. The letter V was used instead of the letter U. But I also mentioned to you that there was no letter J. And I proved that point to you when we looked at the book of Joshua and Judges and Job. There was no letter J. Joshua, no letter J, but I. Let's go to the book of Judges. No letter J, but I was used. All right. And let's go to the New Testament, as so many of us like to read. And just to prove the point once again, 2 or 3 witnesses a matter is established. The gospel according to John. Do you see a letter J there? There is no letter J, but we see the letter I. Even when you look in context, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. The same in the beginning was Elohim. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shined in darknesses, and the darkness comprehended it not. There was a man sent from Elohim, whose name was, what does that say? I-O-H-N. It does not say J-O-H-N. I-O-H-N. Whose name was Jan. There was no letter J. So then that takes us to the name Jesus. His name was not Jesus. J-E-S-U-S. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can find that right fast. Let's see exactly what his name was in the 1611 King James Version Bible. Here's a passage right here in the book of St. Luke, the book of Luke. Can you see it? And Yahusus, being full of the Holy Ghost, returned from Jordan, and was led by the Spirit into the wilderness, being 40 days tempted of the devil, and in those days he did eat nothing. And when they were ended, he afterward hungered. Do you see how his name was spelled? I-E-S-U-S. No J-E-S-U-S. And in some contexts, in other texts, you find it spelled I-E-O-S-U-S. You see it spelled in many different ways in early Bibles. And I-E-S-U-S, Isis, being full of the Holy Ghost, returned from Jordan, I-O-R-D-A-N-E, and was led by the Spirit into the wildernesses. Jordan, that is the word Jordan. So again, his name was not J-E-S-U-S. All right. And I can take you a little bit further in regards to the name Jesus, but this video is not for that. Maybe Yahuwah willing, we'll do that at a later time. All right. So with that being said, I want to take you into the history of the letter J. When exactly did the letter J come into play? All right. Give me a second. Here I have the World Book Encyclopedia. All right. Volume J through K, volume 11. Okay. It was copyrighted 1980. World Book Encyclopedia, copyrighted 1980. All right. So you have the source here. But let's go into the history of the letter J, and hopefully you can read it, because I'm going to be reading it through the video. So hopefully you can read along with me. Let me get it. Okay. J is the 10th letter of our alphabet and was the last to be added. Did you get that? The letter J is the 10th letter of our alphabet, and it was the last to be added. In other words, even though the letter J is the 10th letter of the alphabet, it was actually the last letter of the alphabet to be added to the alphabet. Now that should send up a red flag. It developed from the letter I. Let's read that again. It developed from the letter I, which was the 10th letter in the alphabet used by the Semites who once lived in Syria and Palestine. They probably adapted an Egyptian hieroglyphic or picture symbol for a hand to represent the latter, but the resemblance is slight. The ancient Greeks used the letter and passed it on to the Romans. In the late Middle Ages, when two or more I's were written together, scribes often added a long tail to the last one. Later, the tail was used to indicate an initial capital I. During the 1600s, get this, during the 1600s, an I at the beginning of a word was written with a tail. The J developed from these forms and became a symbol for the consonant J, as in joy. So there you have the history in regards to how the letter J first developed. Again, I take your attention to the very first sentence. J is the 10th letter of our alphabet and was the last to be added to our alphabet. So again, that proves that in the 1611 there was no letter J. In the 1500s there was no letter J. In the 1300s there was no letter J. In 5 BC there was no letter J. In 30 AD there was no letter J. So then again, that should prompt you to question you, well, what exactly was the Messiah's name? Please, check it out. Check it out. Do the research, please. Here it just breaks it down about how the ancient Egyptians, the hieroglyphics, they drew this symbol of a hand about 3000 BC. Two letters, J and I, developed from the symbol. See, it resembles a hand. The Semites signified the symbol for their alphabet about 1500 BC. Now you see how it is evolving, Now here we have the Yod, which is Hebrew. You do find that in the Hebrew alphabet, and it also means hand. The Phoenicians changed the Semitic letter about 1000 BC. They named it Yod, which was their word for hand. So that just confirmed what I just said. And then you have this symbol here, which looks like a capital I. The Greeks, about 600 BC, made the letter a single stroke called iota. All right. So that's an iota. The Romans here, we have the Roman numeral 1, gave the I its capital form about AD 114. So when it comes to the Roman numerals, we would consider this as a Roman numeral 1. But, the letter I. The Romans gave the I its capital form about AD 114. And then now we have the letter J with the tail. You see the little tail right here? The tail. Confused there. Yeah, the tail. All right. Many medieval scribes added a tail to the I when it appeared in certain positions. The J developed from this practice. Let me read this again. Medieval scribes added a tail to the capital letter I when it appeared in certain positions. The J developed from this practice. Okay. And then we have the small letter J, first appeared about 1200. It developed from the small letter I. Okay, you see that? So if you want to know more history about the letter J, I highly suggest to you that you go to your local library, or if you have any encyclopedias in your home, pull out the letter J, the volume dealing with the letter J, and read up on the history of it, okay? Because you'll find out a lot of stuff about the letter J. And the one thing that will surprise you, as it surprised me, again, You would think that because it was the 10th letter, because it is the 10th letter of the alphabet, you would think that it was added, it was the 10th letter added, but no, no such thing. It was the last letter added to the English alphabet. So with that being said, I hope this has helped you. Again, I just want to show you the differences between the 1611 King James Version Bible and versus the Bibles that we have of today. There's a lot of differences, but I just wanted to go into the details specifically about the contents, the Apocrypha, and I wanted to go into the details about the letter J. All right, so with that being said, Shalom, family.